Welcome to part 1 of a virtual tour of a few of Hawaii's many flower, foliage, and potted plant nurseries.
Aloha! Welcome to the Big Island Farm Tour. I'm Gordon Inoue, the HFNA Big Island representative and board member, here today with our friends at Daisy Duke Nursery, Christian Engel. Christian, I know that we selected your farm because we've been integrating so many of our traditional flowers into our tropical arrangements. What we wanted to do was make people aware that there are temperate flowers being grown here. Tell us something about yourself and your farm here.
Okay, yeah, so this is I just am wrapping up the 3rd summer of growing temperates here on the Big Island. We've grown everything on our farm. This is a 15-acre farm, and we've grown everything here that you can possibly imagine. I went on an heirloom tomato kick for a while. I mean, I've done it all. But when I started growing flowers, temperate flowers, I was hooked immediately. And so I just can't stop. It's an addiction at this point, and I just absolutely love it.
And so much of our temperate flowers are imported, you know, some all the way from Southern California or from Miami, all the way from South America.
Absolutely.
So by the time they get into your hands, they might be 2 weeks old.
Exactly, yeah. So not only am I trying to grow those things, but in addition, I'm trying to grow the things that you can't ship. Yeah. So things like a Cosmo. Someone might be like, oh, a Cosmo. Well, that adds this dainty flair to a bouquet that you otherwise just can't replicate. But you can't ship that.
What's the future here? What are the challenges you face here for growing your farm?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So I was joking with my helpers here this morning that I wish we were here a year from now. Because here's what's happening in the next 12 months on this farm. We are doubling what we're growing. Wow. Our growing space is doubling. We actually have already started plowing. It's on the other side of the fence over there. Our dahlias are all moving up behind our palm trees. So we'll be quadrupling our amount of dahlias that we're growing. We are building a cooler. We do not currently have a cooler. We're building a cooler, and awesome. We are building a studio, a flower studio. Yeah, so this is just the beginning, really.
That's awesome.
How many varieties of dahlias do you think you have under production?
I do know how many. I have just under 800 varieties of dahlias.
Wow.
Yeah.
How can we all help you in terms of building awareness of what your products are?
You know, I think there needs just a better understanding of these types of flowers and how to handle them. Like their care is so different than tropicals. I mean, it's just night and day.
Oh, for sure.
And so what happens is that, you know, like a DIY bride, she'll go get her own tropicals, and then she'll get flowers from me, and she doesn't know how to properly care for these types of flowers. And then she's frustrated because, you know, she'll see someone like Allison who can just, but because Allison knows exactly what to do. You know, all the people in her shop, they know how to use them in a haku. They know how to use them in any way possible. They know all the tricks. Whereas, you know, they're just a different beast. They really are. And so I think education, I would say, is definitely number one.
Does the seasons come into play? Because we're in Hawaii.
I think this is the biggest. I did a live video about this, and hundreds of people have watched it now. And I think that this is one of the big misnomers is that people don't understand how to grow these types. These are like mainland flowers, right? So I'm literally tricking the system. I have to read between the lines. I have to literally research the history of every single thing I'm growing, and then I have to know my area here, my rainfall, my temperature, my daylight hours. Daylight hours is critical, and I have to try to match what that thing wants to my farm.
I see you have a collection behind us. What do we have there?
Yeah, I have some mahogany splendor hibiscus. This is actually hibiscus, believe it or not. Wow. Mahogany splendor, it's beautiful. And then we have a whole bunch of, this is lace flower, celosia varieties in there as well. Yeah, I love celosia. Yeah. So
how did you name the farm Daisy Duke?
Oh, I just love fun, and I love happiness, and I really wanted a name that just exonified who kind of I was. I used to have a Dalmatian dog named Daisy. Okay. I have a tattoo of a daisy, and I often wear little jean shorts, which are called Daisy Dukes, when I'm out here working because of this, you know, beautiful climate. So it's kind of a play on words.
I see.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a very catchy name, and someone won't forget it very easily.
I hope not.
Okay.
All right, should we walk around?
Let's go and take a look at the farm.
These are dahlias, and actually this one you're pointing to, Peaches and Cream, this is one of the top most requested dahlia that there is.
Wow, they're awesome.
Yeah.
I noticed we've got two different colored flowers from the same plant here.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
I know, this one's called Bracken Sarah. This is a very popular variety. And so this flower, as you can see, this is left, it's kind of on the older end.
Yeah.
This would not be sellable bloom, but this guy is a new young one. So you can see how absolutely beautiful its color is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so dahlias often on one plant, as the flower gets older, it will change color. And also, as the season progresses, you'll start to see variation, even sizes of flowers.
Yeah. These are the
Celosia, yes.
And these are gorgeous. So we saw those in the bucket.
Yeah, yeah. So again, going back to growing temperates here, you know, trying to match things up and see when their peak growing time is. And I have found that celosia right now, when everything else is kind of slowing down, celosia is at its peak.
So it's almost more of a fall.
You could, I mean, yes. So what's going to happen with the celosia is, because we planted it when we did, it's going to go great, and then when it gets to our coolest months, it's going to kind of slowly die back. So it needs a certain amount of daylight hours, but because we got it in just in time, we're enjoying the crop right now when everything else is slowing down. And the great thing about celosia is you can easily save its seed, you can dry it for like wreaths and other purposes, or use it fresh.
Almost iridescent.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they just add a great textural element to anything you're working on, and we have every color you can imagine. So this 160-foot row here provides so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're now at Greenpoint Nurseries on part of our Big Island Nursery tour, and I have the pleasure of having the president of the Greenpoint Nursery, Mr. Eric Tanoe, here.
Thank you, Gordon.
Eric, tell us something about yourself.
Oh, well, I started early, I guess, in the business. My dad was a nurseryman from when he came back from college. This was in like the late 50s. My grandfather asked him to join the family business, which he did. And so he wanted to do something exportable, and he remembers long before he went to the mainland that he loved gardening. His aunties, all the aunties gardened, I guess, in those days. And everybody had an anthurium and orchid patch in their backyard. And he remembers having pleasure doing that. Then when he went to the mainland, what he really enjoyed was he never came back. So 4 years on the mainland. He stayed on the mainland and couldn't come back because the family, you know, in those days, it cost a lot of money to fly back and forth, right?
Right.
And so he would be friends would invite him over for like winter breaks. And so the hostess of the house, my grandmother, would send them care packages, and one of the packages would always be anthurium. And he always remembered that anthurium being received by the hostess from my grandmother. They were so amazed that the flowers looked plastic. They never, you know, this is in the mid-50s. They never saw these kind of flowers on the mainland, especially in the Midwest where he went to school. And so that must have made an impact on him. He started selling first, not really growing, but finding out real quick that the product got sold out quick. And apparently nothing has changed in the last maybe 50, 60 years, I guess, yeah? He wanted to grow red anthurium for the American market. But prior to the American market, of course, as you know, we went through exporting to Europe and exporting to Japan before the product came back to America. Well, this is about a 6-acre shade house. And it's primarily growing Leilani or New Pahoa Red cultivar. We have a little bit of tropic ice there. And then this is where we grow out all the CTAR's advanced testing varieties. And this is where CTAR gives us these plants, normally 200 to 1,000 plants of different cultivars. So as you know, it's all different colors and different cultivars here. Dr. Amori is entering a new color that she's offering. It's a kind of a raspberry color. We think it's great. I think it's so. UH2555, the number. There's no name yet on this cultivar. About 50% of our cultivars are still private collection items, but more and more we're using University College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources cultivars, and those cultivars have proven very successful here.
I noticed that the aisles are elevated and the plants are down low. Why is that?
Our cultural practice starts with about 12 inches of media on the bed, which is the lower portion in a new planting. And all the inventory is in the aisle.
I see.
And so we'll shovel cinder from the aisle and then carefully mulch the roots with about a ½ an inch of cinder every 12 months.
I see.
And so the inventory in the aisle takes this crop for a 6-year crop.
Yeah, I noticed some of the older plants have the aisles lower, and so the
It's
cinder's
higher
been
already,
moved
yeah.
already.
So when the plants get older, the aisle drops, it's just continually dropping down as we grab
Very
the cinder.
clever. Well, I think this is an amazing facility. I think your family has been pioneers in this industry, and it's wonderful to see
Thank you.
it coming down through your generation, and I know that your children
Yeah.
are involved here.
I have 2 of my older sons that have joined us now, Chris and John. So we're very happy that they made that decision.
That's terrific.
Of course, you know, we didn't force them. They could do whatever they wanted.
I understand. I understand.
But we're happy that they joined.
Today we're entering the Orchid Alley, located in the bustling downtown of Kapa'a. And as you can see, it truly is an alleyway. You enter from the street and then are greeted by a profusion of orchids across the entrance and down into the shop. Oh, here is a classic. Originally known as Colmonara Wildcat, it's now been reclassified as Ancetostelle Wildcat. There's many different forms, but this one has almost a scarab-like appeal with that patterning on the inner part of the lip. And then that beautiful complementary color to the pale yellow of the petals and sepals. The spray is rather large and will actually keep opening over time, which adds continued interest. We'll talk with the owner here, Neil Sands. Neil, what sort of orchids do you specialize in here?
We actually grow a little bit of everything. We grow intergeneric oncidiums, we grow cattleyas, vandas, phalaenopsis, paphiopedilums, phragmopediums. So I think we specialize in having something that everybody wants, so nobody can walk away empty-handed. We ship, that's our main business, is shipping orchids all over the United States. We have 2 different ways that occurs, or 3 different ways. One is when people come into the shop, so there's a lot of tourists in downtown Kapa'a, and a lot of people just wander in and they say, Aunt Betty would love an orchid, and we say we can ship it, and we ship it. They can come in and they can look and they say, what are these? I've never seen these before. Can I have these in our wedding? Yes, you can. So that makes it really special for people. So we can get them something that they probably wouldn't be able to get in any other way at all as far as orchids go. So that is one avenue. The other is we have a website, www.orchidalley.com, and on that website, if you search for different types of orchids, you can find them, and it's mainly geared towards gift baskets, but we do have a tab on the website that covers species and novelty orchids as well. And then the third way is we do a Facebook program every Sunday at 2 o'clock, and we reach out all over the world. We have different people following that religiously, and they see stuff that we grow, and then they order it, and we buy it and we ship it. My wife Faye is in the process of making a couple orchid baskets. So she starts with orchid baskets, puts the orchids in, and then she dresses them up with different types of bromeliads, tillandsias, whatever she has blooming. And it makes a real wonderful companion. She put ferns in or whatever she has. So it lets her be a little bit creative and give the people something more than just an orchid in a basket. So it's kind of our bread and butter. We do ship all over the United States. When we ship them, we don't put the bromeliads in them because we can't. But we still send a very, very beautiful orchid basket.
Is that a Miltoniopsis behind you there?
Yeah, these are Miltoniopsis. These are stunningly beautiful. And the color on this is just outstanding. But a lot of this breeding has been done, started with Ivan Komoda on Maui. So we were able to go up and visit him, see how he grew his, and so I've kind of copied some of his techniques. I grow them in windy conditions where most people think they're really delicate, and actually I kind of treat them, I abuse them a little bit, and they bloom better that way.
So this is in reality a really local orchid then. You're not going to find this even outside the state probably.
No, I doubt you would. I think Kauai or the Big Island, possibly, and Maui would be the only areas I would ever expect to see these. A lot of this stuff is kind of pretty much specialized Hawaii product. And for anyone looking for the exotic and the state-of-the-art breeding and the pathial petalums, these I think are the way we're going to see a lot more hybridizing go. This one has Kolopakangiai by Delanadii, and this one over here is Kolopakangiai by Gray Eye. And Gray Eye is pure white, and you can see it has a similar shape but a different color.
Welcome to Olapava Farms. Our farm is located in Hana, Maui in the Kaeliku district. We've been farming here since 1983. This is an overview of some of our ginger fields. We currently have about 8 acres in production, and we grow Tomi ginger, Tomi raspberry, which is right here, and pink ginger, red ginger, and Jungle King, and various other types of gingers. We got ideal growing conditions here, plenty of rainfall, good sunlight, and good cloud cover, which really helps the ginger. So this is kind of showing you how healthy our fields are and giving you an idea about how much ginger we really grow. This is the packing shed at Olapava Farms. This is where the flowers are brought after harvesting to be thoroughly washed, graded, and bundled, and gotten ready for packing. This is flowers that have been just harvested and processed and are now ready for sleeving and packing. We wash the flowers in these big wash tanks with Dawn soap. Also have numerous heliconias here and buckets, and ginger, shampoo ginger that has also been harvested.
So now we're at one of my favorite farms up in Kula. It's Malolo Farms, owned by Ali Minnie, and she specializes in podium.
Sell online, retail. We have some wholesale accounts, but most of the retail comes in through our site, and we'll hold the pick as needed. Okay. Right now, this is the whole farm been picked for those orders.
So minks, kings, pins, the safari. The candlelights seem to be blooming now. And there's the crimson comets. So kings are really popular right now, right? You can't have enough. But I noticed you had some that were really special here. Yeah, these caught my eye. Look at these. The size of these are really sweet for bridal work. The size difference in these.
There's the bouquet right there.
Right, because sometimes you do have a bride that wants 3 of these. And it's funny because a lot of times it's the most petite bride, right, that asks for the bouquet. Yeah. And then they want the bouquet small.
And that's a pound.
Right, yeah. But these are very, very sweet. I guess we're going to be seeing more of these little ones. Yeah, it really has a nice application for the bridal bouquet so it doesn't take over the whole bouquet.
These are minks here. There's several different varieties.
So here's this one has lighter banding on the top, and then this one's a white owl.
Well, we have photos on our website, so we make these arrangements based on what we have.
Sometimes you have loose bunches that you wholesale, let's say to Oahu or to the mainland.
Yeah.
And what is the season for that?
January.
Okay. So then from January 1st you start moving pins, and then the wholesalers are able to then get loose flowers. I love the leucadendron. This one right here. It will be one of the items that we'll be using in the bridal work.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so the reason why I was drawn to the Galpenii was because of this slight lavender tinge. So I could pull that color palette, not necessarily because they have the silver combs. But yeah, you have a lot of different types of foliages that I don't get to see at other places, and you don't think so much of Protea. But thank you for taking the time.
Anytime, anytime.
We're here today at Onomato Orchids, and we're greeted by Peter Neifert. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Well, Neifert. Proper
I'm
way of saying
sorry.
it.
Well,
Yes.
and thank you for having us here today.
You're welcome. This is Grammatophyllum scriptum. We have two types. Scriptum generally is the green with the brown flecks. We grow these in our area in foam peanuts, pure foam peanuts, to repel all the water. And because it's foam peanuts and it doesn't break down readily, we just put that plant in a bigger pot. And then when it overgrew that, we put it in a bigger pot and a bigger pot. So this is it. And obviously it needs another pot, but I don't know if I want to mess with it any, get a bigger pot than what it is in already.
But it's gorgeous. Just the shape of it is just
Yeah, it's
gorgeous.
a little late this year. Usually the beginning of July we have flowers, but interestingly enough, these flowers last quite a long time for your typical orchid, a good 2+ months, if not longer. Well, this is Dendrobium stratiotus. There's an interesting story behind this. Mr. and Mrs. Inoue, Jean Inoue in particular, were orchid hobbyists, very serious orchid hobbyists. Many years ago, the story that she told me was in the early 40s when they were newlyweds. They went to a Dr. Muir estate sale, and apparently Dr. Muir had this particular plant for sale. So they bought it, stratiotus. My dad knew she had it. It's who knows how old, early 40s. You got to figure it's at least 80 years old. But the reason my dad wanted this is the stratiotus that we used to get from who knows where, and it was in the 80s. They always used to die on us. So my dad called up Mrs. Inoue. She lived in Kailua and China Lakes, and asked her, hey, can I buy a section of your stratiotus? And she said, oh yeah, sure, come on over. So my dad and I went over there, and she told us the story I just told you. And that was in the 80s. So we've had this ourselves 30+ years.
Oh.
We make basically one hybrid. This is stratiotus. Antenatum is a miniature form of this flower. And you get your basic genetics will tell you a large cross with a small, you get an intermediate size. And that plant is Dendrobium Samurai. Very well-known orchid plant if you're a hobbyist in the business. It makes a very good bloomer. This is a little bit more temperamental. You can see a very short spike. You don't see a whole bunch of flowers, but with the hybrid Samurai, it just blooms like crazy. So this is the hybrid Dendrobium Samurai. As you can, what I've said earlier, compared this, it's a very beautiful flower, but minimal display, at least with us. But you can see the Samurai, and this has been blooming probably since April. Just a massive amount of flowers. Makes a good display plant. The one weakness of this is the rhizome is a little too long for most people. Commercially, you grow them, and if you grow them in a small pot, they grow out of the pot very quickly. This is Aerides odoratum. We do have people come here and request only orchids that smell. And that's a tough one for us. There are only a handful of orchids that smell. One of them is this, it's blooming now. If you're here earlier in the year, the most popular smelling orchid plant in Hawaii, of course, is the honohono. It's a Dendrobium anosmum. It's a deciduous orchid. It has to drop its leaves and then it flowers off the bare canes. But that generally is blooms around March and April. That's the season is done. Whereas this is just starting, and of course this is in July. So it's pretty much right on time. Everything this year is a little late, even the honohonos were late. But the one thing I always have to remind people, generally if an orchid plant smells, it doesn't last that long. The most well-known, besides honohono, worldwide, the most popular smelling orchid plant that I know of is Oncidium Sherry Baby. And I have people, visitors from before COVID, they came from all over the world, and they, in broken English, they're telling me chocolate, chocolate. So I know what they're talking about, the chocolate orchid, Oncidium Sherry Baby. There's another one, Oncidium Heaven Sent, the same smell. But once again, for foreigners, hard to take it back. But for mainland folks, they're more than happy to buy orchid plants. We're certified, so we can ship it to them. But a lot of people start off, especially the folks in the mainland or just about anywhere in the world, with Phalaenopsis. You see it all over your grocery stores to your garden centers. That's an outlier. That's an unusual plant in that the flowers last 2, 3, 4 months, depending on your care and your environment. It's a low light plant. It can grow indoors next to a window and flower and grow for many years. Most orchids, you can't do that. They demand more light, intermediate to high light. Intermediate, of course, would be equivalent to in a tree where you get 50% shade, 50% light, roughly. The Phalaenopsis grows on tree trunks, limestone cliffs in the Philippines, so a lot thicker, denser jungle. And of course, the leaves are very wide. Think of it as solar panels. Generally, the wider the leaf, probably the lower light level they should be in. And I say generally because there's a ton of exceptions.
Wow. But I noticed you put this in a nice Spanish.
Well, this is not a good thing, in my opinion. I mean, it looks fantastic,
Yeah, it
but
looks great.
it'll eventually get, this will cover it. So we strip it off, but the birds come in here and they take this for nesting material, and they'll drop it. So sometimes we have what I call nest of Tillandsia. The locals call it hina hina, up on top of the shade cloth, not even in underneath. So this is not really desirable as far as I'm concerned. It looks pretty, but
No, it looks gorgeous with it.
yeah, but once again, it'll choke out the plant eventually.
Oh, it will?
So yeah,
You gotta take it out.
when we got enough time and we sell this too, so we'll just strip it and hang it in bunches, and after a year or so, they're good to go.
Oh, cool. But this is a gorgeous, so delicate. How long would you say the flowers last?
This one, of course, it depends on the weather. If it's raining a lot, most orchid plants, when they flower, if you read up on orchids, they generally flower during the dry season.
Okay.
Right? So if it's flowering now and we get a bad weather for a week or so, it'll eventually kill the flower because it's just wet. And a wet flower, a wet plant will attract fungus, bacteria. So it just, you get spots, water, what we call water spots, and then of course it has no value so far as selling it. So you really want to get these to bloom hopefully in the dry season, and if it's raining, then we put it under a roof that we have to protect it from the rain.
Cool.
But this is probably about a month, not much more than that. I haven't really timed it. My guess is about a month.
About a month?
Yeah.
That's still pretty. I mean, I love walking through your farm, Onomato Orchids, and it's been so wonderful. Thank you so much for letting us come by.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. And fist bump.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Hawaii Floriculture and Nursery Association thanks you for watching this virtual tour of a few of the many farms and nurseries in Hawaii. Purchasing flowers, foliage, and potted plants from Hawaii is easy. The Neotropica guidebook contains over 800 photographs. For your free copy, send a mailing address to Order Hawaii Neotropica Guide at gmail.com. Aloha from Hawaii.
Welcome back.
What a great film that was, the nursery tour. You know, this year it's been a lot about orchids, and I'm so pleased that there's a lot of beefing up of orchid growing in Hawaii, because as I mentioned several times, it's that softness, that different texture that goes so well and marries with a lot of the tropicals. So it's thrilling to see. And you guys are just teasing us, by the way. I mean, I saw some of those beautiful mocaras and vandas, and I'm like, when can I order those? That's what you guys are doing to us, you know.
We have to keep you interested, you know, so we'd like to tease.